Hello, it's Martin from Wisely Automotive with yet another i3. We have already discussed the Driving Assistant Plus package on the channel and we have concluded it's not the best of systems. However, when it comes to parking aids, it's a whole different story. We need to start by understanding all the options, because there are quite a few nuances. First of all, let's set the record straight. What do you get as standard? Well, that's just the rear parking sensors. They're very good and reliable parking sensors. You also get a graphical representation of them in the iDrive screen alongside the usual beeping, and they are very reliable at detecting obstacles, even thin ones such as poles or bollards. But if you demand more, then you have to look for cars with the Parking Assistant package, because that package includes all of the parking aids bundled in together. That's in case of the i3. We will get onto the i3S in just a second. Namely, that means front parking sensors in addition to the rear ones, a reversing camera, and an automated parallel parking assistant, which, unlike on some other cars, works fully, quote-unquote, autonomously, where you just need to press a button and it does the steering as well as accelerating, braking and changing of gears on its own. However, you need to sit in the driver's seat and are ultimately responsible if anything goes wrong. We will explore how that works in practice later on in the video. As I said, all of this only applies to the standard non-S i3, and there was no way to pick individual options. You had to go for the entire package. With the S, because it has those sporty wheel arches to accommodate the wider wheels and tires, those go over the area where the side ultrasonic sensors for the automated parallel parking assistant would have been mounted. So BMW decided to drop the parking assistant package, and you could individually choose either a reversing camera or the front parking sensors, but there is no option of the parking assistant. Oh, and please excuse the condition of this black example starring in this video, because yes, we have sold it before, but it hasn't been re-prepared yet, and it endured about 2 to 3 years of life on the streets of London, so it will need a deep clean and probably a little bit of paint and some wheel refurbishments. For the sake of completeness, let me start by showing you the front parking sensors, even though they're nothing spectacular. So for example, as I get close to this Ioniq ahead of me, the i3 has a very short bonnet. The parking sensors will start beeping when you go past the yellow zone into the red zone. So you are fairly close, but yeah, they do turn on automatically. With a big disclaimer, only if you have that feature enabled. And to double check that, you can scroll all the way down on the left side menu for the parking assistance. You just need to make sure that the automatic PDC activation box is ticked. Most customers tend to look for the parking assistant package because of the reversing camera. So I came to our local Tesco's car park to show you how that works in practice. Needless to say, the moment you put the vehicle into reverse, the image comes on automatically. But that's not all, because there are some settings you can adjust. To access the menu, you just need to rock the iDrive controller to the left. And the first thing to point out is that you can adjust the brightness and contrast of the actual video feed. Let's be honest here, you will not be filming any movies with this camera, and the default settings are fine, so there is no need to mess with any of that. What is, however, important to enable are the augmented reality features, and we often see these get disabled after a factory reset for some reason, but they are lower down here in the menu, and yeah, if they are off, you will still get the camera image. But that's it, it's just a camera image. It's still a very good safety feature because it shows you what's directly behind you. So when you're reversing, you can be more aware of your environment to make sure that you don't run over any cyclists, pedestrians, pets, etc. But to unlock the full potential of the system, you definitely want to have these two options ticked. The parking guidance lines are present in two colors. The red arcs show the maximum steering lock of the vehicle, and the green lines, they are almost like tracks which predict where the vehicle will go as you continue reversing back and how wide it appears within the image. This is obviously corrected for the distortion of the camera. Secondly, I've got the distance markers, which overlay the information detected by the ultrasonic parking sensors and highlight any obstacles directly within the video feed. But let's go on a quick parking lesson so you know how to get the most out of this system. As you exceed about 10 miles per hour, the camera image disappears. And let me go into this section of the car park, which is a little bit more empty. And in fact, having too much space can sometimes be a bit of a challenge because it can be difficult to go directly into the painted bay given you can't see the lane markings. A little trick on all i3s is that you can just flick the mirror selector switch into the right hand position. For the UK market, obviously if the steering wheel is on the other side, it is the opposite, and then the left side mirror will automatically dip the moment you go into reverse. But forget that, let's use the camera in this case. You can manually turn it on by pressing the parking assistance button in the center console. It will go into the parking assistant view, which we will discuss in just a second, but in this case I want to manually enable the reversing camera too. And this is where some of the guidance lines come in handy, because to reverse in one sweep, all I need to do is make sure that the outside of the parking bay is aligned with that red arc. So now when I go into reverse, I just need to apply full lock. Obviously check my mirrors because I need to make sure that I'm okay to go, and keeping in mind that the front will swing out, and I will just keep on going. And you will see that I will basically end up properly in the middle of the bay. I can do any fine tuning now, and I can just make sure that I'm going to end up square with the rest of the bay, and that's it. Into park, and the moment I get out, I'm confident that I'm in the middle of the bay and parallel with both sides. What really helps with the i3 is that the camera is mounted perfectly in the middle of the rear bumper, so there's no weird distortion you need to account for. That's all the practical stuff out of the way. Let's now get to the fun things, which is the automated parallel parking. Just so you can see what's happening, I will turn on the parking assistant manually, and you can see it's firing away looking for spaces on the left and right side of the road. It can do this at speeds up to 22 miles per hour, so you can be going at some pretty good pace, and it will still try its best to find a suitable space. The way it works is that it's using the side ultrasonic sensors to just measure the gap in between vehicles. A very important disclaimer: if the curb is low, it will not detect it. So let's put it to the test. There is a parallel spot on the right here, and I think we actually solved that i3, so it will be very awkward if it ends up crashing into it. So what next? The car tells you, switch on turn signal, press and hold the parking assistant button, and remove your hands on the steering wheel. So first you need to keep your foot on the brake to make sure the car is stationary. You press and hold the parking assistant button, the car automatically went into reverse. I'm letting go of the brake. You still have to be very careful and watch for what's happening, and it's doing everything on its own. If you're unsure at any point, you can let go of the parking assistant button, because that works basically like a dead man's switch. The moment you let go, the car slams on the brakes. However, that doesn't mean you've completely given up. You can press the button again and the car will resume. It's going nice and tight into drive. And that's it. Went into park, I can let go of the button. I would also recommend putting the handbrake on separately, and that's it. I can turn it off and walk away. And judging the job from the outside, it has parked perfectly parallel to the curb. However, this is the disclaimer where I need to explain how the system works, because it's not always quite like that. What it simply tries to do is align the vehicle's outer edge with the outer edge of the other parked vehicles. So if those are crooked, the i3 will also park crooked. It can't quite properly park if the road curves. And most importantly, if they are very small vehicles parked super close to the curb, then there is a high risk that the i3 will try to pull in too tight and it will scuff your wheels. So I will be honest, there is a little bit of a reason why we're doing all of this testing and showing you how the system works while the vehicle still has not undergone our usual preparation. But no, it's not the system which scuffed the wheels. I believe that was the previous owner. This was a massive space, however, so let's try a bit more of a challenge. By the way, the system also works in the background, so if you've already went past the space and you just want to make sure that, oh, do I fit into that? You can always press the park assist button afterwards, but because it has not detected anything on the left, I'm afraid that space is simply too tight for the i3. This parking assistant is pretty brave in terms of the spaces it fits into. I don't know the exact requirement, but it has a go even in pretty tight spaces, including if it has to shuffle within the space. So here it is definitely a little bit more tight, but still nothing too crazy. Managed to do it within 2 maneuvers. Needless to say, because it's using those ultrasonic sensors, it can detect spaces based on purely paint markings on the floor. So unless there is a gap in between 2 vehicles or 2 solid objects, it doesn't realize that that's an available parking space. But if you can't park into like a double or triple space, I'm afraid you should probably hand in your license. But having said that, this one on the right, that one appears quite tight. So let's give that a go. Rinse and repeat in terms of the process. It's going for it. And yeah, I did chicken out a little bit. I let go of the button, but it does say obstacle detected and it's not happy to proceed. So you see, even the computer doesn't always quite get it completely right. So that's the message I want to send. It's a lovely gadget and a feature, but it's more of a gimmick, and you definitely are still responsible and need to make sure that it's not doing anything stupid. I think that's a good point to conclude on. Do you need all of these parking assistance gadgets and aids in a car this small? Realistically, no. The i3 has fantastic visibility, and even with the basic rear parking sensors, you will do just fine. However, if you do want the extra bits, rest assured that with the parking assistant package, you are getting high quality features for the extra money. The reversing camera is high resolution, very clear, with those helpful guidance lines. You've got the front parking sensors as well, and you've got the parking assistant for the bragging rights when you show it off to your friends. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. Make sure to check out this playlist if you want to learn more about the i3, and subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about EVs in general. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next one.